William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I welcome you to another Two Hats special of community events. Let's look in and see what's really happening.
And good afternoon, and welcome to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis. The late Patti Fink is going to be very, very late today because she's down at the convention, the Democratic State Convention in San Antonio. Josh is in the studio with us, and our guest today is Monica Roberts. Monica, are you there with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Well, welcome, Monica.
Welcome, Monica.
And Monica is the editor of Transgrio, which is a transgender blog, but it's more than that. It's a wonderful news site. Monica, tell us what you do with Transgrio.
Transgrio is... Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah,
okay.
We can hear you.
Okay, Transgrio has been around for about now 10 years, and... It started because when blogging took off, I didn't see any the trans blogs at the time that were talking about the issues in our community from a person of color perspective. Mm-hmm. And and there are differences in terms of a transition that happens with a Latino person and with an African American person versus some of my white counterparts. Mm-hmm. So, and then there were just certain issues that I wanted to comment on.
Just your voice being heard there, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that has been necessary for me to comment on. Like, for example, what has happened in Orlando. One of the things that I have been talking about is the fact that, not only the right-wing attempts to try to erase LGBT out of, this terror attack, but actually trying to drive a wedge between us and the Muslim community.
Right. Absolutely. Right. And that, of course, is something that we want to talk about today a lot. Mm-hmm. I know last week on our show, Patti and Lerone talked a lot about what happened in Orlando. So the actual event, I think all of us are just so drained by it this week. I want to mention, though, for people who hadn't heard, this is probably a copycat, probably inspired by Cathedral of Hope this morning. 3 suitcases were found in the church at a little after 8 o'clock this morning. The church was evacuated. Their 9 o'clock service they did outside behind the Interfaith Peace Chapel. By the time the bomb squad got there, they were able to clear the building in time for the 11 o'clock service. Last night there was a threat at S4, which is our biggest bar here in Dallas. Mm-hmm. There was gunshots outside of the Brick. Enough's enough going on. What, now, Monica, you're down in Houston. What's been going on down there?
Yeah, we've had a threat leveled at our Pride Parade that's going to happen this coming weekend.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what police are doing to protect the community?
They've already told us that they are ramping up security in advance of the Pride Parade, and Mayor Turner made it clear during the vigil that we had Wednesday that we are part of this, of the 2.2 million Houstonians who live here, mm-hmm. and it is past time for folks to get over it mm-hmm. and deal with that fact. And I was at City Hall Tuesday during our Tuesday comment session, along with 11 other members and leaders in our community, to call out a city council member who not only was trafficking in Islamophobia, but was trafficking in transphobia. And I called for HERO to be passed in the wake of in the wake of what happened in Orlando.
And Hero, for anybody who doesn't know up here, that's a Houston Equal Rights Ordinance that passed by the City Council, was signed, and then was overturned by voters.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, in case anybody in the gay community up here is worried, we can't do that in Dallas.
Right.
So we don't have that kind of City Council recall.
Yeah. Well, we actually say the problem is like, it's too easy to put stuff on a referendum, and really, to be honest, if it weren't for our Republican-controlled state, say Supreme Court, Hero would have never been on the ballot in the first place.
That's true. That's very true.
Because a lot of the petitions were actually illegally submitted.
It was challenged in court, and the court said that it could be voted on. But Monica, I wanted to ask you about, or talk a little bit about what. I guess some of our big players in the city are doing. We just got a huge donation from Mark Cuban to the Dallas Police Department to help ramp up security down in the Oakland area, which prior to what happened in Orlando, we've had some bashings, here in the LGBT community. Has anybody stepped up and said they're going to make a donation from either the Houston Rockets or the Texans or anything down there?
None yet. Nothing yet. So we'll see. We'll see if some of the some of the big bucks folks pop up. Something like Patti. A lot of our leaders were in San Antonio for the convention, and I've heard a couple of them were elected as either delegates or at-large delegates. So. As they make their way down I-10 East, we'll see what happened in San Antonio. But I said, well, one of the things I said on the blog, I said when I talked about the Texas Democratic Convention going on, I said unlike the one that the Republican one had happened, I say I can guarantee you that there won't be an anti-gay or anti-trans language stuck in our party platform in the Democratic one.
No, actually, Aaron, who is Patty's partner, sent me a copy of the platform, and it's very pro-LGBT. In other words, for equal rights, calling for workplace non-discrimination and all of those other protections that we simply don't have. Some of them we kind of have through the courts, but not officially, not fully. But all those protections that we really don't have. It also called quite clearly for transgender rights and basically to stop concentrating on bathrooms. That's not what people are about.
Right.
That whole bathroom issue we're all tired of. We're tired of talking about it. We're tired of hearing about it. I don't care how people pee.
And nobody's tired of hearing it more than me and my siblings in the trans community because we know straight up that they are using it as a Trojan horse for one of the Republican Party and the conservative movement wet dream issues to wipe out all civil rights law in this country. And that's what a lot of people miss in the HB2 arguments, is that HB2 wiped out all civil rights law in North Carolina.
Right. So one of the groups that's now organizing are veterans groups, because the Charlotte city ordinance that HB2 was designed to eradicate, and HB2 is the state ordinance, state law that was passed in one day. They're working on the repeal, but they're just, they can't rush things through the legislature. But HB2, they were able to rush through both houses of the legislature and get a governor's signature in one day. But the repeal, no, we have to do this deliberately, and it's coming, but, we have to be real careful here. But
sort of like the with all deliberate speed implementation of Brown v. Board.
Precisely.
Right, we have to be deliberate with that, because having different kinds of kids or just having different kids. They're not different kinds of kids. They're all kids. But having in the same class, we have to be careful about that. And, so now it is 50, 60 years later, and we're still, we have to be careful with how we're doing that, because dangerous things can happen when two people talk to each other.
Or they have to wait, or they're saying they have to wait to for the lawsuits to get through the courts. Because, they did sue the Obama administration.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the good things is that there was already a lawsuit that had occurred in which Gavin Grimm had filed on his school district, and it went up to the Fourth Circuit level, and Gavin Grimm won his case, which was basically his school district was discriminating against him being able to use the restrooms that match his his presentation. Mm-hmm. And the Fourth Circuit basically sided with Gavin Grimm. And the cool thing about that is one of the states that's in the Fourth Circuit is North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So it's already been decided by a federal court. They're just choosing to sue again.
Yeah. Well, and then there are also several lawsuits percolating now in North Carolina that take direct aim at HB2. And with the Republican refusal to consider Merrick Garland's nomination, we are looking at a 4-4 split. And that 4-4 split means that the controlling precedent will be at the circuit court level, mm-hmm. which means that in this case, the 4-4 split works in our favor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That ruling would be upheld.
Yeah, that ruling will be upheld, and HB2 is pretty much a dead law walking. It's just how long it's going to take before it actually dies.
And how much economic damage is going to be done to the state before it does.
But even the officials, some of the officials in the state, like the police departments, have already said this is an unenforceable law.
Yeah.
No one's going to enforce it. There's nothing on the books that says what the repercussions are if you break the law, and they don't have the manpower to uphold those anyway. It's an unenforceable law.
However,
and speaking of those, the things that it's trying to do, I went to Target this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I saw people coming out of the bathrooms.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. There's no story there.
Yeah, well, and then what that law is trying to do is basically stir up anti-trans animus.
Of course,
and
of course.
While I was up in Dallas for the BTAC conference, back in April, mm-hmm. we did have that incident where some guy followed some woman and tried to follow a woman in the restroom because in his ignorant assertion that she wasn't looking feminine enough in his opinion. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have all these amateur gender cops running around
exactly.
here.
I never saw the follow-up to that. Was he arrested for going into a women's room?
I was tracking that, and I never saw what the end result was on that. But
because the illegal part was his going into the women's room, not the woman who wasn't transgender anyway. But not that it matters one way or the other. Mm-hmm. But she turned out she was straight, right?
Yeah, she turned out to be cis and straight. Yeah. And I'm hearing more and more of that being aimed at cis women who happen to be taller than 5'8", or who present in androgynous, who have an androgynous look or short hair or ultra short hair, being called trans. I have an aunt who's like 6'1", and she's been, and she has been getting increased negativity of because people assume that she's trans when she actually isn't.
And you know what? That's going to happen mostly to cisgender women because there are a whole lot more women who don't dress up to go to Walmart. They just put on a pair of jeans, they pull their hair back, and because that's how you go to Walmart or Target or to the supermarket, and there are a whole lot more of them than there are trans women.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that includes all trans women. There just aren't as many. You know, and I'm talking about those who present more masculine, those who you would never guess were transgender. All of them. There just are, because we don't have this thing about, I'm going to the store, I have to put on a neat little dress today. You don't do that.
The only time you'll see me in a dress and heels in the store is if I'm happen to be walking into it after I've either done a panel discussion or some kind of event where where I'm in business attire and I'm doing so on the way home. I'm not. There are days when I just walk around. I don't throw makeup on my face every day, even though I'm known in this city and elsewhere. So, the joke that we used to have at most trans conferences is that, how can you tell the transsexuals from the cross-dressers? He said the cross-dressers are wearing micro mini skirts and 5-inch heels, and the trans women are wearing jeans and tennis shoes.
Exactly. But every time we've had trans people on, we've had to do this explanation. Transgender is how you identify your gender to be. It doesn't mean that you're ultra feminine, ultra masculine. It just means that it's how you perceive yourself.
Right.
Yeah, and not only that, you are making moves to actually live in the gender you perceive yourself.
Right.
You are listening to KNON.
Hold on a second. We weren't quite ready for that. Josh was queuing, and let's turn that one off for now. But let's take our break as long as we.
We're coming up on a break anyway.
We're coming up on a break. Monica, hold tight for just a minute. We're going to take a break. We have one spot that we need to play, and we'll be back with more Lambda Weekly right after this.
This is Rollins Gilliland, and I really, truly believe that 89.3 and Lambda Weekly are not only adding to my life, but they're changing lives. So why don't you, at this point, when they need your help financially, call. They're going to give you the numbers. Call in and donate so that we can perpetuate the future that is now.
Okay, so it's not Pledge Drive. So I queued that one. Josh queued that. So on the board today, we're being incompetent. I'm glad when I was doing the music show just before, I was able to operate the board. That's not happening now.
Exactly.
This is Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Josh. I do have to give him credit for helping me.
Well, he did a fantastic job last week.
I'm here with Lerone. Our guest today is Monica Roberts. She is the editor of Transgrio, which is a blog, a transgender blog based in Houston. And Monica is one of the members of the National Gay and Lesbian Journalists Association. There are very few bloggers who are members of that organization. Monica is that well respected that she is a member of that organization, and as far as I know, the only transgender person of color who's a member of it. Would that be right, Monica?
I'd have to probably search around for through the Black LGBT blogging world to see.
Yeah, and I'm just giving you props because yours is one of those places that we go when we're writing for the newspaper to get that other point of view, and I'm so glad you're on with us. Lerone, you had a question.
Before I get to that, I definitely want to say Happy Father's Day to everybody out there. Everybody, Happy Father's Day.
Happy Juneteenth.
And Happy Juneteenth. That's right. That's right. Monica, at the beginning of the show, you mentioned, there's some differences between the trans communities of colors, with either Hispanic or white or African American. And we are doing this series we just started here on the show about racism within the LGBT community and homophobia within the communities of color and what the differences are. But what I've never really witnessed any divisions that I've seen with the trans individuals that I know between white, Hispanic, or black. Are there some? What are those differences? Do y'all seem to be more more in unity than I'll say the LGBT community?
On one hand, wow, that's true. Because we do have the attitude that you're my sister, period, right, or you're my brother, period. But there are some, there are some differences in terms of, for my white counterpart, that while that's not the case, that's less the case now. But when I transitioned in 1994, the white trans folks who transition tend to do so later in life.
Interesting.
Which meant that they had time to build, make money, in their previous gender incarnations, and so they were better, they were more financially well off than their trans people of color counterparts in the black and Latino communities, because we tended to transition earlier.
And are those transitions? Would you say those transitions are easier for your white counterparts within their straight families than the African American straight families?
It depends. At least in my family, I have family members who do have my back and respect my, especially since I can rub it in their face that I went to the White House last week. And
we were just going to. That was my next question to you.
Congratulations.
That some of us were at the White House. We'll talk about that in a minute, though.
Yeah. I have some of my family members who, who know that I've been transitioned now 22 years. It's not a phase and stuff. And then there are others that I haven't talked to since 1994. So,
wow.
I look at it that they're lost as far as I'm concerned.
See, I think being gay is a phase for me. It's one that's lasted for more than 40 years now, but it's going to go on for a while.
Yeah,
but it's a phase.
But one of the things that I do get a little tired of, and is and especially in our black community, they are quick to discount our blackness, or like I like to say, I'm black. I'm too black for the LGBT community at times, and not black enough for the black community as a whole. And even though when I and a whole group of folks were fighting to get HERO passed in 2014, it wasn't just for the trans community. I was also trying to help pass a human rights law for our entire city.
Right. And somehow that was largely missed. You're absolutely right. That was largely missed.
That's largely missed. And then I remember one of the conversations I was having during that time period with a black activist who was with the HERO opposition, like, well, we never see you. I say, we never see you folks in the LGBT community fighting on our issues. And then I had to remind her that less than 2 months before our conversation, I was up screaming at HISD for, I was one of the 100 speakers speaking at HISD headquarters when we were complaining about the fact that many of the schools in black neighborhoods had been closed or had been closed down. And my issues that I talk about aren't just trans issues. I'm a black person first. That is what you see of me before the trans part even comes into the conversation. And I still have to deal with the issues of being black in America, and also black and female in this America. So, there's intersectional stuff that goes on with me. And that, folks need to realize, especially some of these sellout ministers, that, if my human rights as a trans person aren't secure, yours aren't either.
Mm-hmm.
And and Hero Repeal should have made that crystal clear to some of these fools. The HB2 stuff should have made that clear. And the fact that some of them continue to try to work with these conservatives and the same conservatives that are fighting our community when it comes to voting rights, when it comes to other issues of importance to the black community, but yet you're partnering with them in order to hate the gays. It's ridiculous,
mm-hmm.
and it's sickening to me when I witness some of these folks doing that.
Yeah, you mentioned a minister, and I wanted to tell a story here, and it's just awful. I don't know if you were ever part of, or are you currently part of the church, but one of the biggest attributes to, not attributes, one of the things that people say the reason why the black community is so supposedly more homophobic and transphobic than the general population has to do with the black church. Well, this week, in addition to losing, some of our loved ones in the Orlando massacre, talk about
mm-hmm.
pouring salt in a big open fresh wound. One of the guys that was gunned down, his name was Shane Tomlinson. He was a gorgeous guy. He was a choir singer, and the church, black church, has now reported they will not let his family hold a funeral at that church that he was part of because he was gay.
And sang in the choir every Sunday.
Talk about just downright disgusting.
Yeah, it is. But I have to think about the fact that, for every church that acts in that manner, we do have not only, imams like Dae Abdullah.
Mm-hmm.
We have Bishop Yvette Blunder. Mm-hmm. We even have trans ministers like Reverend Lawrence Richardson up in Minnesota, and other.
And at our vigil last week.
And one of your homegirls, Dallas area homegirls, and Reverend Carmarian Anderson.
Uh-huh.
So
Carmarian we love. But in addition to that, you were talking about imams last week at our vigil up here for the people who were killed in Orlando. We had 1,000 people who showed up. 1,000 was my quickie count. It was probably over 1,000. I think the Dallas Morning News was estimating somewhere closer to 2,000. But we had an imam speak from the Valley Ranch Islamic Center. We had somebody else speaking from CARE, and I never remember what CARE stands for, but it's the Islamic Anti-Defamation League, who was standing there with somebody from the Anti-Defamation League. We had a rabbi and the imam who spoke, just standing next to each other. So that kind of hate it isn't really representative of what most people believe.
Yeah, that's it. And we had, once during the hero fight, we had a lot of our interfaith groups that were front and center in not only fighting to get hero pass, they were also front and center at our vigil. At our vigil that we held at City Council, outside of City Hall on Wednesday, that I was fortunate and blessed to be a part of. It closed out with a prayer from an imam. And one of the things that I've done when I attend Creating Change is there is a Muslim service that happens during the creation run, that Abdullah officiates over, and that I've been able to put Muslims during that service. So and it's been an amazing experience to watch that and be a part of it.
One thing, let's go back a little bit to these, to the vigils that were held. Last week, I've never seen a turnout like we had this week. It was quickly put together, and it was the best turnout that I've ever seen just announcing something on Facebook.
Not only was it a quick turnout, it turned out
huge.
The same day, and it was raining.
And it was raining. It was pouring. We would have had twice the turnout, I think, if it wasn't raining. Our turnout was amazing, and the number of elected officials that were there was astounding. Half the city council, the mayor, two county commissioners, a Grand Prairie official. There were a couple of state reps that sent their messages because they were out of town. Really an amazing turnout. What was the turnout like? Oh, and what was interesting in the mayor's speech, he kept referring to this as domestic terrorism and what the police department is going to do to fight domestic terrorism in Oak Lawn. We got a donation this week from Mark Cuban that it wasn't surprising that he sent it. It was just so thoughtful because he's the one who contacted Mike Rawlings, our mayor. He's the one who contacted Mike about what can I do to help, because he knew the police department here is shorthanded. They're short by about 500 officers right now. There was no money for overtime, and the police have already expended some real valuable resources to Oak Lawn. So what can we do? Well, this is going to pay for about 16,000 hours of overtime specifically to protect the LGBT community.
Yeah.
Have you heard of anything in Houston that's going on similarly?
We are concerned because we had, even before,
Monica, you are breaking up. You're starting to break up. It's the first time that's happened.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, no, that's better.
Okay. Well, we've had violence aimed at our community since the Paul Broussard event back back in the 90s, and we had a volunteer patrol called the Q Patrol that was at that time during the 90s would drive around, do observations in the club, in the Montrose, which is our neighborhood club district, to say basically taking license plates down, coordinating with the HPD, to report anything strange that was going on. I think. And I've been suggesting that Q Patrol needs to be revised now. But, as far as our vigil, we had 15 of the 16 city council members there. And the only reason the 16th missed it because his wife was in the hospital. We had the state senator, Sylvia Garcia, and Sylvia Garcia, another state representative there. We had two of our city, our Harris County commissioners there. Chief Montalvo, and much of the HPD command staff was there. And we had a very intersectional representation from our religious community, including one of our civil rights icons, and Reverend William Lawson was there. Bishop Fiorenza, he's Galveston Diocese, so the ADL was in the house. So Mayor Turner's speech made it clear that we were part of the tapestry that met city, and the council member who was Mayor Pro Tem, Ellen Altman, she in her remarks, she wants person sponsored hero for a hero to be reenacted, and wake of this. And I also found that
you're breaking up again.
You still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, because it's still breaking up a little bit.
Okay, let me try. Okay,
now you're good. Now you're good.
Okay. let me try stepping into a different spot here.
Good. And don't move. We have 20 minutes. Don't move.
Yeah. I also found it interesting that all the hate mongers, like Stephen Hotsey, Dave Welch, Dave Wilson,
and for anybody who up here, those names are familiar. They're the ones who Plano went to because they couldn't find good enough hate mongers here in Dallas. They're the ones that Plano went to when some people in that city tried to repeal the Plano Equal Rights Ordinance. Unfortunately, they forgot to read the ordinance and submitted things completely wrong, so every single signature was thrown out.
Yeah. And Jonathan Saenz was also part of that, and part of that crew. Notice how quiet they've been this week.
They have been quiet. And once again, Jonathan, we'd like to ask how your lesbian wife is doing.
Yeah. And
which is why he started the hate group he did.
Totally.
Because we also pointed out that much opposition was busting from the burbs, from the Houston burbs. All those folks that you saw in the protest outside of the outside of the black ministers from the Baptist Ministers Association, the Houston and vicinity, they were the only Houstonians that were part of that hero opposition. The rest of it was out of town, and it was in the suburbs like Katy, in Clear Lake, and Magnolia. They weren't even Houstonian it. Houstonians favored passing hero by a by over 75% margin. So it was basically the deceptive Jim Crow remixed campaign that led to hero being repealed.
Monica, we need to
You're
take
listening
a
to
break.
KNON 89.3 FM.
Did it again. Hold on, Josh. Hold on. Let me just introduce our break. We're going to take a break. I'm Dave Taffet here with Lerone Landis. And are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, Josh is ready. Hold on, Monica. We're going to take a break. This is Lambda Weekly on 89.3 KNON FM.
Hey guys, I'm C.D. Kirby, and you're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 KNON FM.
And this is 89.3 KNON FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis. Josh is our ever-reliable board operator. We're just having a ball here with the board. My thing with the show before was I recorded new CDs to use on that show, and it would not play on CD players 1, 2, or 3, which you can fire from the board, but it would play on 4 and 5. Which you can't, and so we're having a great time in here. Anyway, we're talking.
It only played Hebrew.
Yeah, and it only played Hebrew for some reason.
It's very telling.
Who knows? We are talking to Monica Roberts. Monica, as you can see, we at KNON, we're a mess. So,
hey, it reminds me of my days when I was part of After Hours with late Jimmy Carper down here. I said for KPFT, and we had our moments where it was kind of fun. So
well, that's us up here. You just, speaking of being a mess, what was President Obama thinking when he invited you to the White House this week?
Well, and it was funny. I got the invitation after about 24 hours after I was a finalist for getting an invitation for the United States of Women Conference and not getting that. And 24 hours later, I get the invitation to finally come up to D.C. for the LGBT Pride reception, and it was the first time I've been able to go. And so I moved since I was planning on going up to the East Coast to Philly for the Philly Trans Health Conference. It was easy for me to just kind of detour into D.C. and come up to that Pride reception. I ate enough of the many crab cakes for everybody here in Texas and beyond. So, it was amazing.
What happened while you were actually there?
Most of the LGBT, most of the leadership in the LGBT community was there. That, and it tells me how long I've been in it, that I know a lot of them by first name. I, saw Aisha Moody Mills and her spouse Danielle. Philippe Cunningham, from, Minneapolis, along with Andrea Jenkins, who are trans advocates there. There were a lot of folks, bumping to Mara Kiesling. Teak Milan and I were in line together. Ruby Corrado from Casa Ruby up in D.C. I was hanging out with her. There was a nice representation of LGBT folks of color in the room too. In addition to some of the people that I, like Sue Fulton, from Sparta. And some of, and other LGBT, leaders, in the community who, we were all there, because it was kind of bittersweet because we knew that was the last time that, President Obama was going to preside over one of these, and hopefully if the country, does the right thing and elects, the next female president, we will have another one of those in June.
So you don't think President Trump is going to invite you?
President Trump is probably not going to even have one of these. So and I don't even want to think about Donald Trump.
Let's not use those words together.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about his.
I'm just being fair and balanced.
Gotcha.
I don't even want to think about his tiny hands on the button on the nuclear trigger.
You mentioned that you were while you were up there, you were going to the Philly Health Trans Conference. What is that about?
Philly Trans Health Conference. Now it happens the second week of June, and it's probably at this point it's grown now to be the largest trans themed conference in the country and possibly the planet. There's actually, I actually ran into trans people from Uganda.
Wow.
And Gambia. In addition to, some from Brazil. There was a lot of international representation there. They have a medical and professional track. And it also happens to be one of the conferences in which the trans kids and trans parents show up for. So I got a chance to hang out with Jeanette and Jazz Jennings, and
awesome, and
talk to Nicole Maines and her father Wayne Maines. So on Friday night of the conference, there, Jeanette and Jazz's foundation hosts a pool and pizza party for the for the trans kids, and there are moments where when I walked in there walked into the room, a lot of the trans kids walked up to me, gave me hugs, said thank you for fighting for us and stuff. So yes, I found I have a lot of trans Creole readers in the trans kids community. Does
it amaze you as much as it amazes me when I see how fast the trans kids community is growing?
Yeah, because I can remember being at Lobby Days in 1998, which was the first time that I went up to Washington, D.C. to lobby, or, sitting at Southern Comfort back in 99, and we're having these conversations with some of the trans leaders of the times. Won't it be wonderful when we actually have people, that are running for public office, so working in the White House, or seeing our trans kids be able to grow up like we weren't able to do, and to actually see one of the leading advocates be a 16-year-old girl in jazz, or Nicole Maines, and and seeing these trans kids, and we have a similar effort down here led by Dr. Keo Meyer, which is called Gender Infinity, and which I ran into a couple of the Houston, trans parents and stuff while I was up there, and it's amazing. And I met, and I finally met in person Debbie Jackson, who's the mother of a trans child in Kansas City, and she's been doing some amazing work, advocacy work on behalf of trans kids. It's like I joked with Jeanette. I said, you do want to talk about mama grizzlies? They haven't seen mama grizzlies until you have seen legislators try to mess with their kids.
Absolutely. David mentioned that he was surprised at how quickly the kids trans community is growing. I'm surprised at how well or how good their parents seem to be adjusting to this. And because most of these kids have heterosexual parents. And, it seems like they have come to the back of these trans kids, probably even better than they have come to the supporting and having the back of just gay kids.
Yeah, and they are organized, and they are very organized, because they've had to be, in a lot of cases, because they've had to fight, because one of the things, that I like to point out is that it costs, there's a toll for me and any trans person to be us. It costs to be my kind of queer. As we like to say, I have to go through medical procedures in order to be me. I have to spend money on medical care on a regular basis in order to be me. That's not true.
And when you say medical care, in addition to regular medical care, and find somebody who knows how to do that kind of medical care.
Yeah, and do it in a culturally competent manner.
Right.
Because some of these laws that target these conscience laws, these religious conscience laws, also affect the trans community. Just as folks have been denying, giving HIV medication to folks based on their religious beliefs, we're starting to see that crap happen with counseling and medication for trans folks. There was one case we had down here in which we had a trans man who had to go to emergency room and was being denied treatment because of their trans status. And
how can an emergency room do that?
Well, you have these religious freedom laws that they're sticking in there, which are being interpreted by some of the bigots as I have the right to refuse to do anything for you on the basis of my religious beliefs.
And shouldn't if somebody comes to the emergency room and the people in the emergency room say, we're not going to treat you because of being black, and they don't treat you because you're black, that person could be charged with murder. What about same thing for trans?
Well,
I mean, the status has nothing to do with treating somebody.
Exactly.
And not only that, our taxes pay for your butt to go to medical school. So, and your Hippocratic oath says for you to do no harm. You are to treat me regardless of what your personal beliefs are. And and the fact that you matriculated through a medical school paid for by the taxes of the LGBT community means that you need to. We're not talking about your religious beliefs. Your religious beliefs happen on your time. So when you are working, as a doctor or in that emergency room or as an emergency medical tech, and you got that training based on education that was paid for by the taxes of all Texans or, everybody across this country, then you need to do what you're supposed to do, what you're sworn to do.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when what opened my eye to just another hurdle or another challenge that trans individuals had to face is when I saw the film Southern Comfort, and one of the trans men that was featured in that film was suffering, I believe, from ovarian cancer, and could not find anyone to treat him, and I was just like in shock. So at these health conferences that you all have, I'm assuming you all do networking about good doctors and medical facilities that will openly treat you all.
Yeah, one of the things that happened about less than 10 months into my transition was when Tyra Hunter was in a car accident in Washington, D.C., and the emergency medical technician denied treatment to her after he cut open her pants, and it revealed and revealed the genitalia that he wasn't expecting. He decides to do his comedy. He decides to do a comedy routine and stop working on her for about 6 critical minutes, and she ended up dying as a result of survivable injuries in a car accident.
Wow.
Yeah, that happened literally 10 months into my transition in '94. What we started doing in the Houston area was we started doing panel discussions at Baylor College of Medicine, to point out the fact that some of the people that you are going to run across in your practices are going to be members of our community. And you're going to have a situation where you're going to have a trans man come in and you're going to need to do a pap smear. Or you're going to have to do a prostate exam on this woman that walks into your room. And every year that I have to do, because I have boobies, I have to do breast exams.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Why do you think it's so difficult for a doctor to understand that, one out of every so many hundred people is not going to be like all the other people that he's treated, and if somebody has a certain whatever body part that normally is examined, you just take care of that person for who that person is?
Well, because you have this increasing influence of right-wing folks who are sending their kids who have sent their kids to Christian schools, quote unquote, or homeschooled them, and so there's this inherent bigotry that is reinforced. Mm-hmm. And they eventually, let's say, those that hide it well, eventually matriculate through colleges and universities.
Yeah, and I'm asking the question, it's like, I think it's actually a rhetorical question, because how does a doctor act that way? And still consider himself to be a doctor, but, what? Yeah. Whatever.
It's the same as folks who claim they're Christian, but can call from the pulpit for the deaths of gay and trans folks, or say that the tragedy that happened in Orlando was a public service. That kind of unhinged bigotry.
Apparently, Westboro Baptist Church is showing up in Orlando to attend some of the funerals. How nice of them! But you know what? Here's what I like about them. They've been labeled as the far-right extreme, that every time they show up, it makes the other right-wing extremists distance themselves from them, because they're seen as the lunatic fringe, really. So they have to define... they're put in a position where they have to define how they're not like them. I enjoy that. I enjoy their squirming. So.
Yeah, and also the Family Research Council. I'm finally glad that ABC finally woke up and didn't have Tony Perkins on to talk about the Orlando tragedy today. They actually had Tony Perkins booked on this week with George Stephanopoulos, and after the protest, they basically rescinded the invitation to him a long time ago, since the Family Research Council is a hate group.
Sure.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, and you noticed how the Republicans basically have been trying to keep it quiet. The fact that in the 6 months prior to this attack, they were literally, they were trying to pass anti-LGBT legislation. They were demonizing us on a daily basis up till the day of the attack. And now all of a sudden, we're supposed to believe that, now they're trying to attack Islam. And I'm like, no, boo-boos, no boo-boo kitties. Y'all have been pushing this anti-LGBT hatred for 4 decades now.
Monica, we are out of time. We are out of time. Delight to have you on.
We gotta have you back sometime.
Yeah, one time when you're up in Dallas, come visit us in the studio.
Oh, definitely we'll be up there for the next LGBT, next CPAC one. So,
good, and we'll talk before that one and plan for you to be here.
Thank you, Monica.
Our guest next week is Sheriff Lupe Valdez, and have a good week from all of us here at Lambda Weekly.
This is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I welcome you to another Two Hats special of community events. Let's look in and see what's really happening.